Welcome to the Watering Hole. We're sitting down today with Mr. Shane Smith. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. So we're out here at Stillwater at the Calf Fry, and you're headlining tonight. Last time we saw you, I think you headlined OCL here. I think it was a little over 2 years ago, something like that. Somewhere around there. So now you're headlining big stage Calf Fry. How does it feel to be out there?
Oh man, I mean it's amazing. It's we've been doing this such a long time, and it's just like it ebbs and flows. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like year to year, and well, I can't tell you how many times we've played, inside the Tumbleweed here.
Yeah.
To nobody. You know what I mean? I mean like years and years of doing that, and so it's really cool getting to play the festival and being a headliner is, I mean that's awesome, obviously, but it's like at the same time we got so many just awesome bands on it. It's like in the Strays. I mean, like Red Clay Strays, even in the last 6 months, have like exploded. And have had so much success. So I mean, I think the whole headline thing is just like, which month is it? You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
But it's obviously a privilege to be here, and just good to be back in Stillwater in general. So yeah.
So you, like you said, you played here in 2021, and that was for OCL. But since then, you guys have put out a new album called Norther.
Yeah.
When we saw the lineup, or before we saw the lineup release, when they told us who was going to come through, I was like, I gotta like do some homework on Shane Smith and the Saints. So I really dove into that new album.
Cool.
And I love the song Adeline.
Thank you,
I
man.
saw you guys put out a music video for that one.
Yeah.
So kind of what was that process for making that music video for that song?
Man, we've always been like way behind the eight ball with music videos. Like as a band, we've never been signed to a label. We've never, and because of that, we kind of like shoot from the hip a little bit on our process, and nothing's ever really on time. Like with historically, we've been real bad at putting out music videos like on time with a single and stuff like that, and we also just never had a budget to really do it. And now we finally got more of a budget. And so, but we still kind of kept to that grassroots thing. Like we got our media guy that does all of our videography, photography. And he's kind of like a general, like an assistant TM for us as well. Eric Kane. He's like the lead actor in it, and for that music video, and so it's like we had him in it. We had his girlfriend Tori Blake was in there as the girl. Like our buddy Adam had a badass FJ Cruiser, like old FJ Cruiser. We were like, that's got to be in the video. It's like it was just like kind of funny stuff like that in the whole thing, and so it was still really grassroots and. What is the bar in Deep Eddy Cabaret, like down just west of Mopac, downtown Austin. There's this old bar called Deep Eddy Cabaret, and we're buddies with some of the folks there and friends of the owners. And we needed a bar scene, so we like hit them up, and they're like, "Yeah, come film here," And so it was a lot of that stuff. Anyways, it came together really well. David Wells is our good friend in Austin that we do a ton of video work with him, and he like kind of directed it and kind of put it together with us, and it turned out cool. So yeah, it's doing well on YouTube. I mean, we've never had anything go remotely viral in our lives, but let alone a music video. But that one's, it's actually doing pretty well. Like it's got a couple 100,000, views on it or whatever. And we hadn't really had that before with any kind of music video.
Yeah.
So anyways, but yeah, it's a cool track. It sounds, it's kind of like the epitome of that record. That whole record is just a really unique sounding thing. When you listen to it start to finish, it's a vibe, and every song is just totally its own thing. Like they don't really, they're all just very individual sounding songs.
My favorite song off the new album, and I was talking about this earlier with somebody else, is Book of Joe.
Yeah.
And so what's the story behind that song?
So my wife's grandfather was named Joe, and anyways, I just got really close to him, like in his older years. He passed away years ago, but I was really, really close to him. My wife and I met in high school, so I mean, we've been together for a long time. I've known him like as a grandparent. You know, most of my grandparents passed away when I was really young, so it was kind of like he was like a grandparent figure to me. But he grew up. His mother and father were both immigrants from Germany and Czechoslovakia, and during the Depression, he, you know, I think he was one of 8 siblings. That you know, I think it was during the Depression, his dad accidentally shot himself. Okay, so there's this whole like backstory, but like I guess during the Depression there were all these drifters that would just like wander the highways and would look for work or look for a farm that they could like, you know, settle on for like a couple weeks in the woods or whatever.
Yeah.
Steal some chickens, you know, like literally to just like make ends meet and get some food because people were starving and stuff. And apparently these drifters were like coming through people's barns and they would take your chickens and stuff. And during that time, Joe's dad, I think Joe was like 11 or about 11 years old, I think, when this happened. And I guess there were some people stealing their chickens in the barn. And his dad heard them and goes out there, is like trying to sneak up, sets his rifle down, like the butt of the rifle down, trying to crawl through a barbed wire fence, and it goes off and shoots him. Oh my
gosh!
And he lived with a bullet in his head for 3 days, apparently, and finally died. And so, you know, Joe, my wife's grandfather, is 11 years old with like 7 or 8 brothers and sisters. During the Depression, has a mother that doesn't speak English at all, you know, and he like drops out of school, has to raise the whole family on the farm. And anyways, it's like he just has this crazy life, this crazy backstory. And so the song is like, you know, first line, like, can't you remember, brother, the good old days in a cotton haze? I can still hear mother crying over daddy's grave. You know, it's like singing about that scene, you know. But it's like, man, when you know the backstory to it,
I just got killed.
Yeah, I know, I did too.
You know, it's crazy.
Yeah,
and, but no one really knows that story to it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so I think to a lot of people, it's just another song, but it hits hard for me, you know.
Yeah.
So, anyways, but and he had a brother named Ed that could play. That there was all these, like, back in the country, like, I guess in a lot of these communities, I know in Texas, but I think all through the U.S. there's, like, you know, tons of migrants and a lot of like German communities out in the country, and they would have these German dances where he told me this when he was like in his upper 80s. Like, I used to talk to him all the time when I would go back home and just hang out, and he told me that they would have these like dances, like German traditional dances, and they would take someone's house and they would take all the furniture out of the house. Like, literally everybody gets pieces of furniture, puts it out in the yard, and it was like a dance hall. And like everyone would just pack out in these houses and just have a dance on the weekend. And he and his brother, to make money when they were like 15, just to make extra spending money or whatever, when they weren't farming, they would play these German dances and knew like however many songs to get by that people could dance to or whatever. And so he would play guitar, Ed could play the fiddle, you know, and that's what that second verse is singing about, is like, I could play the guitar enough to get by, Ed could saw the fiddle, he'd make the people dance like fire, remember, brother, you know. It's like, it's like singing about all that. But, you know, again, it's like, it's deep stuff that nobody knows about, you know,
exactly.
but that's what it's singing about.
I'm so glad that you're able to like talk about that.
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
Like, I would have never known that. That was just a song that I like really enjoyed, and I wonder what this is about. So that's
well,
fantastic.
and Bennett, our fiddle player Bennett, the guys started everything with like, you know, he was really close to Joe also. Like, he knew him, and he played his funeral when he passed. Me and Bennett both played. Just like acoustic at his graveside for the ceremony or whatever. And you know, I think Bennett was very inspired talking to him as well, and that's why he's just like ripping it up on the fiddle on that song. That it's like a very like, you know, he's trying to kind of tell his own story in a way because of hearing all those stories of him and his brother Ed and all this stuff, you know, and so it's a very fiddle forward tune, you know, when you listen to it like that.
Tumbleweed Dancehall. Hey guys, it's Rhett from the Watering Hole Podcast, and we want to give a huge shout out to the Tumbleweed right here in Stillwater. The Tumbleweed's been a huge part of our podcast and helping us get artists. And of course, as you know, they put on Calf Fry, as you can see behind me, one of the greatest festivals around, and that's the episode you're seeing right now, is what we did at Calf Fry, thanks to the Tumbleweed. They have all kinds of concerts lined up. They are closed during the summer, but time fall comes back around, they'll have a great lineup for you. I really wish we could share some details on that, but you're going to want to stick around to hear that. Thank you to Tumbleweed Dancehall for sponsoring this podcast. Iron Muck Brewing Company. Hey guys, it's Jager over at the Watering Hole. Have you guys ever been sitting out on a hot summer day and been thinking, man, I would just love a really nice ice cold beer? I've got just the thing for you. This is an Iron Muck beer made here, right here in Stillwater. And they've been making the best beer around for years now. And this beer right here is actually the Calf Fry beer. So you're actually watching a Calf Fry episode right now. We interviewed artists over at Calf Fry back in May. And Iron Muck hooked us up with a Calf Fry beer. And it was a special beer made just for Calf Fry. And it's one of the best beers around. It's one of the most crushable beers you'll ever taste. And they not only just have this one, they also have the 1890, which is actually the official licensed beer of Oklahoma State. And then other ones like Stilly Wheat, and then their new Servette base that they have out there now. So you guys go check out Iron Muck Beer for some of the best beer around. And thank you to Iron Muck Brewing Company for sponsoring this podcast.
And anyways, it's a badass song.
Yeah.
I love that song.
Yeah.
Like my wife, you know, she's really passionate about it. Obviously, it's about her grandfather, and you know, her middle name, she's named after him. You know, and like, I mean, it's I remember like when we worked on that song over and over and over again before we got it to where we were like, okay, this feels right, you know, and but we reworked the crap out of that song, you know.
Yeah.
But it's a complicated one.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on
Yeah,
it.
there's a lot to unpack.
I would love to see like a band try to cover that song. You know, it's just like, what are we doing?
They're like,
you know,
this
like,
means nothing.
Yeah,
Not nearly what it was when it was written. So.
Dude, for sure. It's like and there's just a lot of tom work going on the drums, and a lot of fiddle going on, a lot of guitar. There's just a lot going on in that song. So
I saw a picture on your Instagram, I think, of you and the guys changing a tire back in the day, just recently. So how long have you guys been actually out there trying to make this work?
Man, probably 2000. Me and Bennett met in 2009 and started playing in Austin together. And so that would be coming up on, 15 years with me and Bennett. And as a band, I would say closer to maybe 13 years, something like that, because he and I played together, or maybe more than that, actually, because he and I played together for about a year or half a year or something like that, just doing like acoustic shows and happy hours, margarita nights, Mexican food restaurants, literally.
Yeah.
And then, you know, eventually it led to doing some full band shows, different band members at that time, other than Bennett. And I'll never forget, I bet it was like 2013 or 14 is the first time we played out of state, out of Texas. And that's when we really, like, you know, if we didn't have the bug already, that's when we really got the bug, was after that, because it was with I had heard like no one knew who Turnpike Troubadours were, and me and my buddy Cody Bass was at Texas A&M in College Station at the time, going to school, and I hit him up because I heard on Chris Mosier's radio station in Austin. He used to work for, I think it was KVET at the time, and he had a Sunday night show where he would play like all these new up and coming bands that no one knew about, you know. It was like the Chris Mosier like Sunday porch or something special. and there was like really good music that he would play on it, and like it was before streaming or any of that shit was going on, you know. So it's like people would listen to that, you know. College kids had it on all the time, like, you know, it was Sunday, throw it on the radio, like get a beer, whatever, right? I mean, it's just a different world, and like, and it's so funny because it's only like 10 years ago or something, but anyways, I was driving. I'll never forget on Ben White in Austin, and I heard I think "Every Girl" was the first song that I heard, and I called my buddy Cody. I was like, "Dude, this band, you've got to check out this band from Oklahoma, Turnpike Troubadours, and they're playing in College Station in like 2 weeks. I'm gonna see if we can open for them because like I just love their stuff. I just got onto it." And so sure enough, we went and opened for them at this tiny bar called Shotzi's in College Station. There was like hardly anybody there, and we ended up partying with them that night at Northgate, and then started doing some shows with them back then. And it was so cool because we saw like firsthand, like out the gates, what it looks like to be a band that is like about to like break in a way, at least in the red dirt world at that time. Like it's not like they were, you know, playing Saturday Night Live out of nowhere, you know. It's like it wasn't like a label deal or something. But we went to Fayetteville, Arkansas, you know, where University of Arkansas is, and we played at Georgia's Majestic with them in the front room, the tiny front room that faces the street. And I'll never forget, like a fight broke out, and it was just crazy mayhem. And we did that show with them. Then we did like Knuckleheads in Kansas City with them in the tiny room of Knuckleheads. And then Wormy Dog in Oklahoma City. Like we did a couple of these places. And I remember coming out of that weekend and we were all just like, oh my God, we're going to do this for a living. Like we got to figure this out. Yeah. We're so bad. We got to get better. You know, like it was just like ingrained in our heads out the gate. And anyway, so they just played a big part in us, like in inspiring us to try to be better and try to get our stuff together, you know. And but that was like back in like probably 2013, you know, when it was like out of state shows. And then we met like Mustang Brewing Company, which existed at the time. It doesn't exist anymore, but Tim Scholl and his wife at the time were running this thing called this brewery, and that's who sponsored Turnpike. And so we would do all these events for them, sometimes with Turnpike, sometimes without. And but that's where, when I think of our origin story, it's kind of like that's when it started to be like, okay, like let's you know, actually like get out there and really try to play. And we just immediately we just started just playing anything we possibly could, you know. And we would do like the 6th Street residencies all the time, where it's like 4-hour sets. Then the band after you would cancel, and so then you take their slot too. So you're doing 8-hour sets, you know. And like it was stuff like that literally every week in Austin if we weren't doing something out of Austin. And so but it you know, it helped us to become like a really tight band and a very tight live band, which you don't see a lot anymore. You know, there's like certain bands, but it's such a digital era now where like, you know, people will go viral or they'll have something break on TikTok or YouTube or whatever. And it's, and typically that's not, you know, there's not like years and years and years, let alone a decade of touring behind that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so
Blissful RV Rentals. Hey guys, it's Rhett from the Watering Hole Podcast. We want to give a huge shout out to Blissful RV Rentals. Now we'll throw some pictures up, but we had one of their RVs for our Cat Fry episodes, as you're watching now. Hope you're enjoying those. We worked with the team over at Blissful RVs to find the perfect RV for us. Now they worked with us on the size of the RV, the time we needed the RV, and they even delivered the RV for us. So we can't thank them enough for that. It truly was a great fit. If you need an RV for any of your travel needs, contact Blissful RVs today. Thank you to Blissful RVs for sponsoring this podcast.
CH Lonestar promo. Hey guys, it's Jager over at the Watering Hole. I'm holding some of our brand new merch here, and this is made by our friends over at CH Lonestar. CH Lone Star is one of the best merch companies out there, and they'll serve all your artist needs, but they also will serve even your personal needs. So Cody over at CH Lone Star can do just about anything you want. If you want a pair of socks, Cody will put your face on those socks. If you want a pair of underwear, Cody will put your face on a pair of underwear. Now, CH Lone Star is one of the premier merch companies of the country scene, or really any music scene out there. You guys go check out CH Lone Star for some of the best merch out there. Thank you to CH Lone Star Promo for sponsoring this podcast.
So, I'm happy that it went down the way it did. You know, like, even though it's like, you know, it's tough because you go so long, you know, to finally try to catch a break or whatever. Our break was on Yellowstone. Like, that's how we caught our finally, you know. And
I was going to ask you about that as well.
Yeah.
How all that came about.
Yeah, it was. So let me think about what year. I guess it was like 2021, I believe. And we, like 2021, I think it was. We were asked to get on. Or dude, honestly, I think it might have been 2020. Like, I think it was like in the middle of the pandemic stuff. Yeah, because I remember, like, we had a bus fire in 2019, and that's when we hit like a big low for us. And we had been at it a long time at that point. Yeah. And we put out this record called Hail Mary, and then we had this bus fire thing, and then it just kind of felt like rock bottom. We also got audited by the IRS just because I didn't have anything together. Like, I wasn't keeping up with like our 1099s or our whatever. Like, I just didn't. Like, it's so stupid, but I just like didn't have it all together. And I mean, we were just hemorrhaging money at that time, but I still didn't have like the 1099s and things like that filed for like to be able to, you know, just to be able to show how much of a loss it was.
It's like we're losing money, but dude, you wouldn't know. It was such a joke
because they audited us. It was 2019, but they were auditing us for 2015 and 2016. And in those years, I mean, it's just like, you know, just total dog days. And it still kind of was in 2019, honestly. Like, even once it, you know, and anyways, but we just had all this stuff happen, and it hit like rock bottom when that bus fire happened because we lost all of our gear, all of our guitars. Our trailer was locked when the bus fire happened, and the keys were in the bus, and we couldn't get in the bus because it was on fire. We're in the middle of nowhere out in the country, and it took like 45 minutes for these firefighters to get there. God bless them. I mean, they got there as quick as they could, but like it was there was a dude in a deer stand with his dog. This like 75-year-old or something guy just shows up in flip-flops or barefoot out of his truck. He's like, I saw that black fire. I was sitting in my deer blind, and I just knew, well, we're going to work today, boy. And it was like he works for the volunteer fire department, I guess, but he was in his deer blind with his dog. He was the first at the scene. Like, you know, just, it was like, oh, wow, what's happening?
He's like, you know, he shows up. He's like, sure enough, it's a bad situation.
Yeah, there was nothing he could do about it. Like, he was just hanging with us, and we were like, okay, like, I don't know what to do right now.
That don't look good.
Yeah, no, it was literally like that type of a vibe. Like, he just showed up to essentially tell us, like, yeah, man, y'all are screwed, you know? Like,
and this is from a professional.
Yeah, and so... Anyways, it was pretty gnarly, and the guys, I mean, half of them were like in their boxers and stuff in their bunks when it happened, so they like didn't even have pants on. Like two of the guys were like literally in briefs, just outside, just like standing there with no shirt on. Like, you know, it's just like such a weird situation. But anyways, it was like that all happened, and then fast forward like a month or two. We were playing a show at the Gothic Theater. Co Wetzel is a good buddy of mine, and we've done tons of shows with them way back in the day. When he was blowing up, he got in a second bus, and at that time, that was right when ours, you know, and ours went down, and he offered it up for us to be able to fulfill some shows up in Colorado that we had in January, and so. he let us borrow his other bus, and we went up there and did those shows. And during that time is when there was a promoter from AEG, which is one of the largest promoters in North America, and they'd handle like Red Rocks and a lot of these things and a lot of these venues. And anyways, my buddy Danny Sachs had been with us in those Denver markets since we were playing Globe Hall to like nobody, all the way up to Bluebird Theater, and then to Ogden Theater, and then to just Gothic Theater. And so anyways, he was our promoter back then, like one of them at AEG. And he like showed up and he was like, dude, I'm so sorry. Like, this is so bad. Like, what are y'all doing here? He's like, I didn't think y'all were going to show up. Like, y'all don't have guitars. Like, y'all are borrowing people's stuff. Like, and he was like, how are you doing? And I was like, man, I'm not good. Like, I think this is it. And I was going to throw in the towel, like, right around then. And I just kind of told him, like, dude, this is not good. And so, anyways, that's when he ended up linking us up with a new manager. We got with that management group, 7S out of Denver. Then that led to us getting these different opportunities, and that's when it started to finally come back together. And that is also around the same time that we got to hit up on the Yellowstone thing. So all that backstory to say, that was like when it was building back. And I remember getting that call, or our manager got the call, and he was like, hey, Avon, the music supervisor for Yellowstone and a lot of Taylor Sheridan stuff, hit us up, and they want to license All I See Is You for 2 episodes. And we had never had been featured on a car commercial, like nothing, we had never had any placement of any kind. And then, we got placed on the largest, show in on earth at that time. And, anyways, and so, and then right around that time also, we got our first offer to go play Red Rocks during the pandemic, and it was like a 30% capacity. So out of 10,000, you could only have like 3,000 there or something. But that was opening for Lucero, who's out of Memphis, like an old, like a awesome, like Southern rock kind of band. And then right after that stuff happened and the Yellowstone thing, I think that was also the same time Whiskey Myers hit us up to do their like North America tour for the Tornillo tour. And we had never gotten to do that, we had toured North America on our own for years and years and years. But it's like, you're playing to, at that time we had built up a market totally grassroots with we had never been on a Spotify playlist, anything. Because you can't, it's hard to get it. It's so much like nowadays, like, it's like with us, all of a sudden we're on Yellowstone and we're on like 6 playlists. And I'm like, really, guys? Like
where
how
were you guys,
long? Dude,
where were you guys 6 months ago?
We were begging these people to put us on.
Where were you when
anything.
our bus was on fire?
Yeah. And
Can I get some water before we start this one?
Here you go.
Tastes that much better out of a Bad Brad's cup. Hey guys, it's Rhett from the Watering Hole Podcast. We want to tell you about Bad Brad's Barbecue, the longest running sponsor of this podcast, and we really can't thank them enough for that. Bad Brad's has all kinds of dates coming up. I've got a list here all the way into the fall, when they're better. Emily Hollingshed, winner of the Battle of the Bands, one of the top 3 finalists. Cade Roth and the Black Sheep, they're also going to be playing there coming up. Lowdown Drifters, and for you comedy fans out there, Uncle Laser is coming right here to Stillwater to Bad Brad's Barbecue. You got to check it out. When you come see one of these awesome shows at Bad Brad's, you have to try the food. I'm a fan of the jalapeno cornbread and the smoked brisket, while Jagger's a huge fan of the dirty fries. Try one of those out. Tell Vernon we sent you. And we can't thank Bad Brad's enough for sponsoring this podcast.
Anyway, so I don't know. Like, it's just at that time, though, with no playlisting, no nothing, we were still selling out. If we went and played in Seattle, we would probably sell out a tiny room in Seattle. If we went and played in Lower Manhattan in New York, we would sell out Rockwood Music Hall. We would sell out their small room in there if it had like 150 people or something. And so we had built up fans, but they were all just like, it was like small fan bases, but they were all over the, we put in the work. We went out there, but we just didn't have opportunities to get in front of a lot of people. And now you see a lot of these bands, they're doing like arena tours like out the gates, and it's
Yeah.
like, what is going on? It's so crazy, you know. But anyways, that was kind of our coming up, and then you know, that Yellowstone thing happened, the Whiskey Myers thing happened, the first Red Rocks opening happened, and it just kept going, you know.
Yeah.
We kept working, and you know, we never really stopped, and so we're still working.
Yeah.
you
Well-
know, like
Well, speaking of Red Rocks, I got one final question for
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
So you guys were practicing for that today, getting some stuff lined out. So next week, is that sold out yet? The Red Rock show?
I don't know. I think if
Last
it's
time I
not,
knew
it's-
it was closed.
I know it's very close. I
Yeah.
hope it is. It'd be
Yeah.
amazing. Man, last year's was the first time we headlined it, and it sold out in like I think it was like 36 hours. It was like a day and a half. It sold out. And now, given that's your first headline,
Yeah.
you know, like every cousin you got is showing up to that. You know what I mean? Like every neighbor you had, you know, whatever. Like and it's amazing, but like that one sold out like that, and it was on a Tuesday. And I was waiting to hear like, what's our offer going to be? Hopefully we get another one for 2024, and it was a Tuesday again. And I was like, guys, come on, like give me a break here.
Stick
Like
us on
give
a
me a
Friday.
Wednesday
Yeah.
or a Thursday, anything but a Tuesday. And sure enough, they gave us another Tuesday. And so it's one of those deals. Like fortunately though, it's at like 9,800 sold right now, I think. And out of like whatever it is, 10,000 or whatever. So it's right there. But dude, I was so nervous when they sent that other offer. And next year, if they send another Tuesday, I'm like protesting, dude. I'm gonna be like, y'all need to knock it off.
You just send them the Leonard Skinner's gone, Tuesday's gone.
Yeah.
And then you just send them the link to that song. Like, no.
Dude, that's why we did that song, was because of that Tuesday, it being a
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
I was like, we got to do this. But it was a cool cover, and we had Charles on it that year or last year, and Molly Tuttle, who's just this incredible bluegrass player.
Yeah.
She's won a Grammy.
Yeah.
And then Charles, like this last year, dude, like right after that, he had all kinds of awesome stuff happen with him, and so it's cool, man. This year we have 49 Winchester, and then before them, I believe, is Hayes Carl, and he's like my favorite songwriter of all time. You know, even growing up, that's who I was just jamming his stuff forever. So it's pretty full circle,
Yeah.
for me at least.
Yeah.
I'm just such a mega fan of his.
Well, earlier today, we didn't think that we were going to be able to make this happen, but we
Yeah,
can't thank
yeah.
you guys enough. Last minute, you guys hit us up,
Yes.
and we were absolutely shocked.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we can't
yeah.
thank you enough for that.
Yeah,
Thank you so
no
much.
worries, dude. I mean, it's like how often are you in the same place or whatever, and we wanted to make it work. It's just we had that rehearsal day booked,
Yeah.
you know, to get our lives together for this Red Rock
Yeah,
show.
exactly.
And sure enough, we got through it pretty quick, and so we were like, okay, we can actually do this. So,
Yeah.
I'm glad
Yeah.
it worked out.
Yeah,
We appreciated it.
yes.
Yeah,
yes.
man.
Thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to sit down and talk with you today, and
Absolutely.
hopefully we'll see down the road. Maybe we can do it again.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Just holler at me. Let me know.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank
See
you.
you guys.